Data and project management. You have these options that you're presenting, and you want to be able to say, this is what the numbers are telling us. What role does data play in project management, and why is it so important when millions of dollars are on the line?
That's such a good question. And yesterday during our corporate fellow class, I brought out three scenarios that happened this week
Mm.
in terms of having the right data and understanding what is needed. Right. So data is you don't have a successful project without having the right uh, documentation and data to provide leadership, because the project manager is leading a project, but they are accountable to the sponsor and to senior management and to leaders and executives. So at the end of the day, you are providing them with data so they can make a quality decision. So that is very important because it's dependent on. I just sat on Chevron had their quarterly call a couple weeks ago, and they were asked a question from another accounting firm, and the CEO, Mike Worth, was saying, our project managers have assessed that really well. And so what we're looking into is the data to make sure that this is the landscape of what we're doing. And so we have added more resources to it to ensure that it will be successful. That decision was made off of data. That decision had project managers in scope and adding other resources to say, oh, we need to make sure that this is managed tight so we can answer to our stakeholders. So that's a high level example of the importance of data. How does it roll up to the bottom line? I used Chevron as an example because they just had their earnings call.
Right.
But in other scenarios, the three examples that I pulled out for class this week, we were speaking about risk management. Risk management is a component of, it's a pillar of project management, right? And so this week we had in Australia, you can Google it, Australia had a blackout on their telecommunications devices.
Mm.
The whole nation. Can you imagine all of the U.S. not having access to their phones?
Everyone would be freaking out.
Do you know? So then I said, I'm showing you World Live News because I got it off of Bloomberg. World Live News, and I'm shifting it. If it can happen to Australia, it can happen to the U.S.
Right.
If it's going to be able to happen into these two different continents, we've got projects in the landscape.
Right.
How are those projects going to be impacted? Do you have that listed as a risk? Why do we need to make sure that we're aware of certain scenarios? Because we don't want our projects to be delayed. If it's delayed, that's money. If it's late, that's money. So the importance of having data is to make sure that we can manage those things that we have control over and identify those things that we do not have control over as well. So quality decisions can be made by our executive decision makers.
And that's really important because sometimes you have to be able to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand and weigh all the risk and understand that you might have to make some difficult decisions, but if you have the best information possible, it does a long way in mitigating that risk, but it also protects yourself and provides cover as a professional.
Right.
The corporate workplace can be very difficult sometimes, and being able to navigate not only the professionalism whenever it comes to the one-on-one interactions, or as well as building those relationships within your network, but also the work that you do. Those are the two components of knowing how to effectively navigate that jungle, would you say?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Being able to, there's a finesse to that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I say that having the right relationships, in project management, another vertical and pillar is understanding your stakeholders and knowing your business, and making sure that you have a circle within a circle. So do you have the right mentors, advisors to help navigate that space? I haven't had to experience it. I don't need to learn on my own if I've got wisdom surrounding me that has already endured it, right? So they can also help to navigate those spaces for you as well.